Farm Bureau helps protect its members in more ways than you might think. They've always been the voice of agriculture in Arkansas, working on behalf of folks like me when nobody else would. And Farm Bureau stands for the values that Arkansas families care about. They've protected my right to farm and make a living, which helps everybody who likes food on the table. You know what they say, Arkansas counts on agriculture, and agriculture counts on Farm Bureau.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to Capitol View. I'm David Goins alongside Roby Brock, and we now join our political long table, editor of the Arkansas Times, Max Brantley. Thank you for joining us. Good morning. And GOP strategist Bill Vickery.
Good morning.
Gentlemen, thanks very much.
Let's talk about the desegregation case first and foremost. Max, I want to begin with you. Is the settlement, do you think, is it a good deal for all involved?
Probably. It's $250 million more dollars, but they were committed, the state was committed to that amount anyway. It will bring finality at some point to the litigation, and that seems to be an oppressive factor to people. I don't think it'll change much in the way of the operation of schools, to tell you the truth.
What do you think, Bill?
I just think the angst that you hear in Max's voice is probably because he's been through this. We've all been through this before in Central Arkansas, where you thought this was coming to an end. As you guys mentioned earlier, 31 years we've been at this. I just, again, maybe it's just a cynic in me, but I'm not so sure that we're at the end of this whole thing.
Well, we're not at the end of solving what started in the first place, and I think if there was anything good said this week, it was said in legislative committee hearings, not reported much because it's not really about the settlement, but one black lawmaker after another said, in response to some white lawmakers who were pretty insensitive, I thought, said, you know, it is not the same still to be black in America as to be white in America. And John Walker said repeatedly, the lawyer for the black families in Little Rock, 32 years later, we have not presented equal opportunity and equal achievement to black children. Whose fault that, never mind whose fault that is, that's the empirical fact.
Okay, well, I'll say just right now on the micro, they have, Attorney General McDaniel has until Tuesday to get this thing, essentially done, or they go to court. I mean, he said, they're ready either way. I know you've spoken with John Walker, who represents the Joshua Intervenors, Max. Your sense of, do they get this done by Tuesday?
I think there's still a chance that John Walker will join the agreement based on the conversation I had shortly before I came here. He's seeking, and I think the Pulaski County School District is willing to give some special concessions of devoting some $30 million directly to the cause of preparing more black kids for college. That seems to be high on his list. There was a comment that John Walker wanted to stop a West Little Rock middle school. He tells me that's not really what he said. He has a longer objection about way facility money spent. So I think he can still come to the table. Dustin McDaniel says he will go ahead if all three school districts agree, and all that requires is a vote by Little Rock School Board Monday night, which I think they'll get, and go ahead and go to court and try and get the settlement.
I'd love to see this if there weren't any attorney's fees involved. I'd really love to see, and I'm not being cynical now. I think the reason this has drug on for 31 years, a lot of good intentioned, smart people have worked on this issue, and I would love to see if you didn't pay attorneys to become engaged in this and they had to do it out of the goodness of their heart or because they believed in the cause purely altruistically, I'd like to see how long this thing would be dragging.
Well, I've got to interject my one defense of John Walker, who is everybody's favorite villain in Arkansas. When this case was settled in 1989, he had worked 24 years for nothing. He got $2 million in. He had worked for nothing. And he worked for a cause, and he worked for a principle.
Well, he's not the only attorney getting paid, right?
No, I understand there are others, but...
I didn't mean to single him out.
Well, everybody's entitled to a lawyer, and a lawyer's got to get paid for doing their work, but I think there's a focus on that ignores some facts that work in their
31 years
favor.
is a long time, though.
Yeah,
I mean, for things to be in litigation, you should be able to resolve your litigation in 31 years, shouldn't you? I mean, that's not preposterous to think.
Well, you can resolve the litigation, but you can't resolve the underlying facts of segregation, which the irony of the week is the very week that Dustin McDaniel proclaimed, we have delivered on our promises, we have finished this case, we have made these school districts desegregated. The State Department of Education gave approval to a new charter school in West Little Rock that almost certainly will be overwhelmingly white and middle class.
Well, and I also think too, let's be honest here. This has been an issue that has destroyed the community in Central Arkansas, in Little Rock specifically, because you had flight in the 90s that took effect. I mean, you can't have a couple of lawsuits and a court trying to dictate to a community how it can lead its life, because what you see happening is you see flight. You see exactly what you see. You see what you get with the president in this health care program. When you use a government institution to try to force things into people's lives, they're going to abandon it, and they have the right to.
Well, not on the healthcare front, but Senator Joyce Elliott kind of said the same thing yesterday. You can't control what's in somebody's heart or mind. You have to make a conscious decision to try to engage or live where you're going to live.
It's also been a divisive issue at the state legislature for a number of years too, because of the payments that have come out from the state to Pulaski County, and you can't overlook that has been a huge political issue.
And one of the most interesting things to me over the last 2 days has been how little of that familiar refrain has been said. In years past, the first desegregation settlement, which was over a much smaller amount of money, relatively speaking, the outrage was, it almost blew the roof off the Capitol. It was so mad. Even Republicans who normally are just budget hawks of the highest order saying, yeah, let's spend another $240 million, let's get it over with. I was really surprised at how little the money moved people today.
I think you're exactly right, and that's a great point. However, if this deal can't get done this way, I think you will start to see a lot of outrage, and we're at a point with this whole process. Again, I go back to this. 31 years, a lot of really good people involved in this, and if you can't tell me that money on a personal level doesn't have something to do with it now, then I just don't believe it.
Well, at least on the money front, I mean, theoretically, it could work out better for the state if it does go to court. I mean, because it's possible the state money can get cut off after a year.
Dustin Daniel thinks he can get it cut off quickly, and I don't think I agree, but he might be right.
I mean, Judge Marshall's indicated his desire, at least from his court filings, and that's the judge handling the case, that this is going to end. You can see a finality in his writings.
Right. And it should. I mean, look, you've got kids that were born and have kids in the public schools today that had been alive as all this the lawsuit is played out. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Or don't have kids in public schools.
Right, exactly. That's a great point.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good place to at least halt for now. Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's take a commercial break. We're going to come back with Max Brantley from the Arkansas Times, Bill Vickery, GOP strategist. We're going to talk about a potential scandal in the race for the Arkansas Treasurer. We'll break it down what led to an apparent attempt at intimidation between two candidates. I'm Roby Brock alongside David Goins. You have the Capitol View on Sunday morning on KARK.
The Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas. The State Chamber AIA is the leading voice for business at the state capitol and serves as the primary business advocate on all issues affecting Arkansas employers. Our mission is to promote a pro-business, free enterprise agenda and prevent anti-business legislation, regulations, and rules. Now more than ever, business matters. Learn more at arkansasstatechamber.com.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. I'm Roby Brock alongside David Goins. Our political long table, Bill Vickery, GOP strategist, Max Brantley from the Arkansas Times. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Sure.
All right, let's jump in on this Republican treasurer. I'm not using the word gate. I hate that word. not everything has to be a gate. So we're just going to call it, well, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's Dennis Milligan. Fiasco, yeah. Dennis Milligan, the Saline County Circuit Clerk. Duncan Baird, who is a 3-term state representative from Northwest Arkansas, who is running for treasurer as well. We have 2 gentlemen running for treasurer. And I guess this kind of starts when someone finds out during the teacher insurance special session that Duncan Baird, along with his colleague, Representative John Burris, and some other folks, decided to tour. Speaker David Carter decided to tour the state capitol in the wee morning hours, that 1:43 on the 18th, so it would have been Friday. So there were some late nights during this teacher insurance session, not quite this late, because I can attest to that. So what are we seeing here? I mean, they're just kind of walking in and.
Yeah, I think they've been out to dinner and we're up chatting and decided, hey, let's go up on go up on the roof. It's a great view up there.
They're pointing out some things there, and this became an issue because Dennis Milligan, who is running in the primary against Duncan Baird, felt there was some untoward action during this visit, Bill?
Yeah, that's a great point. Now we're into it because now you've got one state treasurer candidate, by the way, running for an office where the previous office holder was could go to jail for accepting $6,000 in cash in a pie box. So this is like the apple dumpling gang here, all rolled up into one in the state treasurer's race. But Dennis Milligan becomes aware of their visit to the Capitol on an evening when the session went beyond midnight, by the way. So, and then you see this video, and it's nothing. It's a group of people walking around, colleagues, as we now know. One of the women was a former communications director of the Republican Party, who's a lobbyist and a friend of hers, and so they all knew one another. Milligan then, takes this video or becomes aware of it, which I think is also a key question too.
Who leaked?
Who leaked this thing?
Well,
Who this was a scandal to begin with?
There's an implication too that perhaps they were asking the Secretary of State's staff to do something they shouldn't have go up on the roof at 2 in the morning.
Milligan filed an FOI request. He got the video. He also got some internal emails from the State Capitol Police, and one note said an unidentified member of this group seemed unsteady. Well, that was all Dennis Milligan needed. And also said one member of this group said, well, more or less implied, we're going to call your boss and you're not letting us up on the roof tonight. We'll get up there tomorrow night.
Okay, so there's more than video. There's
so this is some pretty serious.
There's actual audio.
I've seen more unsteadiness at the state capitol than in that video.
Let's take a listen to at least one audio recording. This is between Duncan Baird and Dennis Milligan. Obviously, one of them wearing, taking a tape recording device. Let's listen to what's said here.
I don't think my wife would appreciate me at 2:30 at the Capitol with women that I don't know or that are not a part.
Right. Well,
there's nothing that smells good about this thing.
It depends on what you think is going on there.
It depends on what the public thinks is good.
Right.
And as a party, this is going to be a bad story for our party.
In this recorded conversation,
we need to say, let me interrupt and say, we need to say this was recorded by Baird after Milligan arranged to meet him at a Krispy Kreme.
Yes.
This is disguise, potentially. So,
it all goes down to the Krispy Kreme, where if you're going to threaten a candidate, shouldn't you pick a tougher place to be than a Krispy Kreme?
So this happened at a donut shop. It says it's not going to look good for the party. I think he's probably accurate in that respect, right? I mean, this is
very much so. Of course, it's been on the front page of the newspaper now. Look, the bottom line here is this. I think that, this is the Milligan campaign with a Barney Fife element to it, thinking this was some kind of smoking gun they could use to intimidate a fellow combatant out of the race. Baird, kind of anticipating what the situation was, comes loaded with a tape recorder, tapes Milligan. Milligan then vehemently denies on radio and in print that he ever made these threats. And then, of course, audio is produced confirming that indeed he did.
There are 2 points I want to make beyond the Keystone Cops element. Number one, this event was put in motion. I think and it was not much of an event at the Capitol, let me say first.
Yeah.
But it was put in motion because Republicans are in the majority. It's their house now. And they say, hey, they'll let us in at 2 in the morning to go up on the roof because
that's your reaching.
No, I don't think so. No, I mean, they swagger in the door. It's their place. Listen, there's no crime in that. Knox Nelson was pretty rough in his day too. But I think there was that. I mean, there's that little element, but it's not much.
Yeah.
But what this does expose, and what Dennis Milligan is working on, is the division in the party over the private option plan. And he brings that up, and he brings up the vote that kept Terry Rice from being House Speaker.
Yes.
When a party becomes big and powerful, it becomes factionalized.
Gentlemen, we got to stop it right here real quickly. Does this end basically here, or is there anything more? Are there any more legs to this? 5 seconds.
I also wanted to say, the public at large may not ever hear about this. This is a lot more interest to us than us.
Could be legal implications for whomever at the Secretary of State's office, as well as Dennis Milligan himself, because Duncan Baird is a sitting member of the State House of Representatives.
True. Bill Vickery, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Max Brantley, great Sunday morning chat there. We'll be back to wrap things up after a quick break. I'm David Goins alongside Roby Brock. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning on KARK.